So, Michelle, it is so great to meet you. You are an amazing, phenomenal woman, wife, and mother. And so we'll just get right into it.
Okay.
All of us want to kick ass in anything we do, but you literally woke up one day and decided to kick ass for a profession. Can you tell us a little about that journey?
Of course. So I have an older brother, and when I was young, I wanted to do what he did. He was kind of my mentor, and we grew up watching Ninja Turtles and Mortal Kombat and Power Rangers. And so when the opportunity came along to do some type of sport, my brother wanted to do karate. And so naturally, I just followed him into that career and absolutely fell in love with it. It kind of took over my life at a young age, and it came into my life when I really needed it. I was, a young girl, very passive, very submissive, very kind of, I always yes ma'am to my, everybody. I always wanted to make people happy. I really didn't have a voice of my own. And I was going into high school, and I was scrawny and had braces, and I really didn't have the confidence that I needed to get through high school. And martial arts is what gave me that confidence, and my instructor is the person that looked me in the eyes and told me that I could be, or that I was, strong and outgoing and beautiful inside and outside, and that gave me, so martial arts basically gave me the voice I needed to carry on in life, and I wanted to eventually teach myself. And so as I became a young adult and realized that I could make money fighting, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it's also one of those things too, eventually I want to teach, and I'm a strong believer in not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And so if I'm telling somebody, no, you got to keep your hands up, otherwise you're going to get hit in the face, it's because I've been hit in the face. So right now I'm just trying to build my resume and hopefully one day have the privilege to teach.
That's great. Yeah, you're definitely not scrawny, to say the least.
10 years.
I know, right? So we were both dressed by M.M. LaFleur. It's obviously I didn't dress myself. You can see the part of me that I'm responsible for. But she was like, they gave me shoulder pads, and I'm like, why?
I was contemplating whether or not I need to keep them or not.
Okay, so as a fighter, you need huge determination, focus, and preparation. How do you get into the right mindset before you go into the ring? I'm sorry, is it octagon?
Octagon.
Octagon, okay. All right.
But I always end up calling it the ring. I mean, same thing, right? They close, well, the difference is they close the gate behind you and you can't run out. Like, you're stuck in there. But for me, it's about having the confidence. And the only way that I can have 100% confidence within myself is if I've put in the time and the work to prepare myself for what is about to happen. With each camp, it's about 8 to 10 weeks of preparation for 15 to 25 minutes of performance. And so if everything isn't aligned, then you're not going to be 100% ready. You have to be aligned mentally, physically, spiritually, and your coaches have to be on the same page as you, and you have to be able to dial yourself in and get in the zone. And so for me, it's having confidence with my preparation. If I slack on my runs, if I slack on my training, if I slack on my diet, only I know if I've put in 100%. And so I can tell the world that I'm ready, because that's the question everybody asks. Are you ready?
Right.
And I could say, yeah, I'm ready. This is the best shape I've ever felt of my life. But only I know if I put the work in. And if I put the work in, then I'm confident, and I go there and I let the punches fly, because whatever happens after that point is just supposed to happen.
Thank you. All right, so as I said, I've been a soldier for the past 17 years, and like MMA, the military is a male-dominant profession. And by dominant, I mean there are more of them, not that they're better than us.
Yeah. You got to put that in there.
But the military is one of the few professions that actually does offer equal pay. And without specifically discussing your contract, do you feel like the MMA is fair and balanced in how they pay their male and female fighters?
Um, so Okay, so I guess I'll just kind of start off by saying I just now have gotten to a point in my career where I can actually say that is a career and that I'm making enough money to where I can consider it a career because, I've been fighting professionally for 10 years and just now I can say that. It's a very hard, tough road for anybody, let alone a female. But I can honestly say with the UFC that they 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 value their fighters for what they bring to the table. If you are drawing an audience and bringing that to the table, then they are going to value you. And so I guess it's kind of hard for me to speak on that because I don't know all of the other fighters and what their contracts, entail. I do believe that all the fighters should be getting paid more than what they're getting paid for, especially with the amount that they're sacrificing. But when it comes to male, female, I think it just comes down to your contract, because we're contracted in as fighters. And if you're good at negotiating your contract and what that contract entails, and at that point, you just have to know your stuff and to be able to stick your ground and show the company, why you're worth this much that you're asking for.
That's great. So definitely, I guess you're speaking up for yourself and saying, yeah, this is what you gave me, but I'm worth this.
Yes, 100%. You go in there and they're like, well, the other girls in the division are making this much, so this is how we justify you making this much. And in my mind, and so my husband is the one that negotiates this all for me. So we're kind of, we're on the same team. So he can be the bad guy for me. And what he says is, yeah, that's what the girls are making, but what are the guys making? This is, she's ranked top 10 in the division. So what are the guys making that are ranked in this division? And, in that sense, they see the value. And I can, say with pride that the UFC really has put the women in the forefront because they see the value that we bring. We wear our emotions on our sleeve, and the same is true when we fight. Our emotions come through, and that's why people tune in to watch us fight, is because win, lose, draw, it's going to be entertaining.
I'm glad. True. I'm glad that you brought that up. Reference your husband being your teammate. I was further along in my military career when I met my husband, and so he kind of took a support role for me. And your husband has done the same for you. But do you think if the roles would have been reversed, it would have been as noticeable?
I'm not sure because I haven't gone through those, I haven't been there. But so when I was pregnant, my husband, so my husband was in the military as well. And he got out of the military and he boxed for the military. And we had no idea each one of us fought. And so it kind of was just a coincidence. But so when we got together, we both had these dreams of pursuing our fighting careers, and then I got pregnant. And so while I was pregnant, he was continuing his boxing career, and then I had the baby, and we realized that we needed a different form of. And so while I was pregnant, he was continuing his boxing career, and then I had the baby, and we realized that we needed a different form of money coming in so that we could have a more stable situation. So he gave up his career so that I could pursue mine. And while I was pregnant, and even in the first couple of months, he was still pursuing his dream in boxing, and I had his back. But he decided to get the more stable job and let me pursue fighting. When it all boils down to it, my success is his success, and his success is my success. So I'm very proud of him when he is successful in his business, and he is the same with me. So whether it was me being successful or him, it wouldn't matter because we're a team,
That's great. And we're getting more involved in leadership roles and getting more and taking ownership of our lives. And it's great to have the men that are not saying, well, well, that's a woman's job, or I can't be taking care of the kids. Like my husband did that. I left him alone for 6 months with my boys, and they both lived. It was it was the most amazing thing. So we appreciate the guys that are supporting their women for who they are and not, listening to, societal norms about what men and what women are supposed to do. We're just supposed to take care of each other, regardless
100%.
of who's taking care of the kids or taking care of the money. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think it takes like a strong man and a confident man to say, my wife's a badass, and to be behind her all the way. So.
Right. So are you, probably people who know me know I'm exactly the same on camera as I am off camera. I don't have a silly filter. But are you the same person in a public lens as you are like in privacy or behind closed doors?
I am, because I think it's important to be genuine and authentic to yourself. As a fighter, basically, like I don't have a business. I am my business. I am my brand, and I have to be authentic to my brand. My fight name is the Karate Hottie, and like I own it. Yeah, like I grew up doing karate, and I'd like to have enough confidence to consider myself hot. And but I also that nickname was given to me before I had a daughter, but it's still true to who I am, and now I'm a lot of other things. I'm a mother, and I'm a wife, and I'm the Karate Hottie, and I'd like to own all of those different spaces with confidence.
Great. So as a mother, yeah, I'm glad it's cool.
Thank you.
So as a mother, what are the most important things that you are teaching your daughter?
What I basically kind of like what I said earlier is I think it's important to walk the walk. And so she goes along with me to everything that I do. She's a huge part of the reason why I fight. She gives me motivation. So I don't know if this is too much information, but she came in the middle of my career, and I was very taken back. I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue to fight. I didn't know if I was going to have the drive to, the time to, but when she came along, I still felt like I had some work to be done. And so I continued to fight. 10 months after I had her, I was still breastfeeding, and I took my first fight coming back. And she was right there. I breastfed her 2 hours before I went on fight, and then I fought.
You should have like used that during your fight, like.
Yes. Right. Like, oh, what was that?
I would have backed them up a little bit.
But yeah, she's along for the ride, and I think it's important for her to see that this is the norm. Like, to her, like, I don't say, mommy's a female fighter, mommy, I say mommy's a fighter, mommy's a warrior, she comes to the gym with me. She knows that when mommy says I'm going to work, that I'm going to the gym to train to fight. And she meets people from all around the world. She meets these huge, gigantic superstars. And to her, they're just normal people. And so what I hope that instills in her is that whatever you choose to do in life, you can. We're all just humans at the end of the day. We all bleed the same blood. We all breathe the same air. So why not you?
All right. So you said you had her early in your career. So I know there's some times you had to explain why mommy had boo-boos. Mm-hmm. How did that conversation go?
It's hard, especially because, in a fight, there are only two outcomes. You win or you lose. And like I said, she comes along with me with all those things. And in victory, it's amazing. And you're on this incredible high. But in failure, it's not. It's not very glorifying at all. And she's been in my locker room when I've come back with black eyes and broken hands. And that was probably the hardest for me to see her. For me to see her see me hurt. It's like, I didn't want her I'm supposed to be the strong one, and she's seeing me at this vulnerable stage. She come in the back, and she sees me with this huge black eye so big that I couldn't even open my eye, and her first thing was, "Are you okay?" And she's crying, and I had to pull her in towards me and tell her, "Mommy's fine. You know, it happens. This is what I chose to do. And sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose." And I think it's important to take those situations and use them as teaching points, because life isn't always about the highs. They're about ups and they're about downs. And more than we'd like to admit, there are more downs than there are highs. But the downs are there to remind us why it's so important to get to the highs, because those feelings are that much greater. But for her, after I told her I was okay, her thing was, "Well, you know that hammer that Fix-It Felix has? You can just put that on your face and then that'll go away." And I was like, "Let's go find Fix-It Felix."
All right. I would put that on my stomach if I had one. Six-pack. You know?
That's what I did this morning.
All right. But it was great. You talk about her seeing you, when you're at your lowest, but she saw you get back in the ring and fight again. And that's important, because, that shows, mommy has resilience, and you're going to get, knocked down or knocked out, a few times, and you get back up and you keep swinging. So, you're the best example, that you could be for her. Timekeeper, how we doing? 2 minutes? Okay, cool. All right. So
Rolling.
Speaking of resilience, so can you share your lessons of importance on being resilient?
I just think that it's important to not lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing, because it can be a long road. And for me, I've been in places where I felt like, why am I doing this? I could be making so much more money doing something else. But at that point, I realized that I'd just be, discrediting all the hard work that I've been putting in thus far. So, I've been doing martial arts for 20 years, I've been fighting professionally for 10 years, so why stop now? Like, I'm almost at the top of the mountain, and I know that it'll be just that much more rewarding. And so I think about it like when I do my training, and if the training's easy, if you fight somebody that's what they call them cans. If you fight a can, it's not rewarding, because it's like, whatever, they hadn't put in the time, the training, they just pulled off the street, and that's kind of you being a bully. But if you fight somebody that is the same caliber or better than you, and you're the underdog, and you come out on top, and you're victorious, then that reward of victory means that much more to you. And that's, I guess, why I continue to put in the time and the work each day, is because I know that every time I hit a wall, every time there is adversity, it is just adding character to who I am.
Right. Okay, and one final question. What's the number one piece of advice you'd like to leave our audience with?
So the first thing that my coach told me when I got into fighting is that if you want to be a champion, you have to get comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think that reigns true in everything in life, because when the fire starts to get hot, everybody wants to get out the fire. But if you can withstand the heat, then you're going to be forged into this warrior that can handle anything.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
So I had this thing I do. I have a habit for picking women up who are smaller than me. It's how I say we uplift each other. So.
Woo! Uh-oh. I'm not going to try that in a skirt.
Thank you so much, Jess and Michelle. And now we would love to welcome on stage Nithya Das, Senior Vice President and General Counsel of AppNexus, and Craig Newmark, founder of Craigslist and the Craig Newmark Foundation.
Great, thank you. Craig and I just agreed off stage, neither of us was going to attempt to lift the other. Great, well, thank you all for joining us today. Craig, thank you for being here at AppNexus.